Hello and welcome to Tim's BMW repairs and information. Well, I've got no jobs for you to do today, and that's because I've been at work all week. But I have got you a story. It's a story about 2 bolts, 1 cat, and a 1,000,000 to 1 chance on my BMW E31. So settle down and I'll tell you all about it. Well, earlier on I came across a photograph that I'd taken about a year ago, and it showed my hand holding a bolt. And it's not this one. This one's just out of my sort of stock of things, bits and bobs I keep in the shelves. No, this one was what I thought was a 16mm bolt, and I found it just next to my car, and I thought, that's strange. Quite a big one. Well, that looks like it probably belongs to some part of the engine. It was a sort of engine size bolt rather than one that holds on any trim. So I went through the things that I've done recently, bits and bobs that I've taken off, and I just couldn't think where this bolt would come from. I just didn't have a clue. So I had to look on real OEM and went through all the engine bolts, and there's nothing of that size at all. Only feeble ones, and I hadn't taken them off anyway. But I took the engine covers off and had a good look around the engine, around the alternator, around the compressor and places like that. And I just couldn't find where it would have come from. And I thought, well, I've only just pressure washed the drive, and I could have blown that bolt from anywhere really, and it could have been sitting around for months or even years. So I just sort of put it to the back of my mind, and I put the bolt on somewhere in here and just forgot about it. And probably about a couple of weeks later, now this is after I've been doing all the shots for the buyer's guide on the E31, so I've been doing a lot of accelerating, whizzing round corners and stuff, really pushing the engine to its limits. Well, it's a couple of weeks later, and I'll go out to have a look at the car, see what I need to do to it. And my little cat Pippi's looking at something just under the front of the car. What you got there, Pippi? Well, that's strange, isn't it? It's another one, just like the other one. Good boy, that's it, good boy. Look at that, Pippi, look. Yeah, good pussy. And what he's looking at is another bolt. Not the one that's in here, the one was still in here. He's found another bolt. Okay, so now this is getting quite serious. I've got 2 bolts rather than 1 bolt I could have blown from across the other side of the drive. But no, this is definitely 2 bolts that's come out of my E31. So, okay, I thought, well, this time I better measure it and see what size it really is. And it was 8mm. It's 8mm by 15 or 16 is what I calculated. That makes it a bit easier to find out where it's come from, because you can use real OEM to cross-reference things like that. So if you type in M8 by 15 or M8 by 16, then it'll show you all the nuts and bolts which are used on the car that are that size. Now, M8 by 16 is only used in one place, so you can be sure it came from there. And where it's used is on the vibration damper at the front of the engine. Now I've got an M62 V8 4.4 litre engine in my car, and that vibration damper at the front is a big lump of cast iron. It really is big. Now, we've seen the damage that a viscous coupled fan can cause when one of the blades comes off, and it pops holes through the radiator, chops all the coolant hoses off, and does all sorts of damage. Now, just imagine what would happen if that vibration damper had come off at 5,500 RPM. It really weighs a lot. Now, to make absolutely sure it was the vibration damper, I got my my camera phone, I stuck it to a bit of stick, bit of tape around it, and what I did is I lowered it down the front of the engine. Now there's not much room there between the viscous coupled fan and the vibration damper, so the phone was right up close against the vibration damper. And it took me quite a few goes to sort of get it over the right place. And then I reviewed the video from all the footage that I'd taken, and this is what I saw. Yes, it's very indistinct, this thing. There's a big bolt. Now, that's the one which is they call the Jesus bolt, which actually bolts the flange to the crankshaft. It's a big bolt, and it takes a huge amount of effort to get it off. But around it, there's 8 bolts which hold the vibration damper to the flange on the crankshaft. And from that video, I'm absolutely sure I saw that one was missing. Okay, so the next thing to do is I need to take the viscous coupled fan off. Now that's not too hard. Done it on all my cars. Never used the holding device or anything like that. I use a great big spanner, probably in my toolbox here. Hold on. There it is. Yeah, I use that spanner. It's close to 32 millimeters. It's just slightly oversized. And it's a whopper of a spanner. And you bap it clockwise to undo the fan bolt because it's a left-handed thread. And it really only works with decent spanners. You can't do it with tiddly little 32mm spanners. They're just not manly enough for a job. You need a bear of a spanner. So anyway, that's how you do it. You sort of put a big cloth so you don't hit anything else. I have to take off 2 bolts out of the pulley, the fan pulley, because this doesn't fit because it's quite big. Anyway, you drop it down, give it a good bash with a metal hammer because it's got to be a really sharp hit. And then it always undoes that the viscous coupled fan. Anyway, I took the viscous coupled fan off and I stuck the camera back down there again, and this is what I saw, and that really is a bit of a scary sight. And I can assure this is exactly what I saw when I put the camera down the first time. 2 of the bolts are missing, the ones which I found. 2 of them are on their way out, and the other 4 were loose. And I mean very loose, they're all sort of hand tight. Now that vibration damper, what was holding it on? It's probably just 21 years of muck, I suppose, that stopped it falling off. But it was on its way out, there's absolutely no doubt about it. Now, if you think about the chances about this one, what are the chances? I use the car every day for work. I go backwards and forwards to work every day. I've been using it for all the videos for the buyer's guide. It's been absolutely miles. And between those 2 bolts coming out, I must have done close to 500 miles or something. So all of those bolts were loose for at least 500 miles. Now also think about what the chances are of finding both of those bolts on the drive, because I park it at work, I'm out all the time, and it could have just shot off at any time. Now what are the chances of finding both the bolts in my drive and being shown it by one of my cats, Pippi, and the fact that the other ones didn't come out. You've only got 2 on the way out. I mean, it's just the chances are astronomical. I mean, what are the chances of that happening? Chances of finding 2 bolts and then working out where they came from and having all the other 6 bolts still in place, but with 2 of them just about to come out. And it didn't take much to get them out, I can assure you of that. They were just ready to drop out. So there's a story which has no meaning at all. You don't need to check the bolts on the vibration damper unless someone's had the water pump out. Now, the water pumps on these, the vibration damper gets in the way of one of the bolts on the water pump. Now, DIY people like me, we just fiddle about and we get all the bolts out without taking the vibration damper out. Off with feeling very brave, we will remove the vibration damper, but I haven't. And I've owned the car for almost 10 years now. So 10 years in the past, someone's removed the water pump and failed to do up those bolts to the correct torque. So in my 10 years ownership, they've been sitting there winding their ways out. And what are the chances of finding both the bolts on the drive? It is truly astronomical, but a perfectly true story. And I've got lots of stories for you. Anyway, I thought you'd be interested in that one. A chance in a million. In fact, it's probably chances in greater than a million that I'd ever find 2 bolts on my drive, 2 just about to come out, and 4 loose without absolute catastrophe. Because just think what would have happened at 5,500 RPM if that vibration damper just found its way out. I mean, if a viscous couple fan could do that much damage, just imagine how much that vibration damper, which must weigh, I don't know, a few kilograms, I should think. It's quite a heavy old lump. I mean, that's what it's there for. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't really got words to say. So I'll say thanks very much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for the comments. I always love reading them, even nasty ones. And thanks very much. And I'll see you next time.